The Dark Rival. Well now, isn't that title equally applicable to so many other Dark Jedi characters in the expanded universe? I've read, and I've heard it said, a lot of fans were disappointed by the relatively short length and more simplistic story in this sequel to what was a very good first book for a children's series. And I understood why reading it, but recently taking more time with it, I think it's actually better than it first appears. I do think this is a book that's better when you read it again, not too long from your first time. Like some books, you have to wait a while before you read again to really to really get what you can out of it. The first chapter, which describes a short dream of Qui-Gon Jinn's, should probably have been a prologue. Now, I don't usually care for prologues being distinct from first chapters in books. Usually it's not necessary. You can just call them the first chapter, but this first chapter is so short and adds a little mystery to the story, but not much else. It's very prologue fitting. Anyway, as the story begins, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn find themselves assigned to Bandomeer, where they landed last time and fought dragons. Now this planet is implied to have been implied to have had sustained ecosystems not too far back, but has been stripped for mining, and now food must be imported from other worlds. This is somewhat similar to the world Apatros in Darth Bane, Path of Destruction, except I believe Apatros had always been grey. And they're not mining cortosis, but azurite, which is nowhere near as dangerous to mine. Bandomeer is covered by a single ocean and a single continent, similar to Panthalassa and Pangaea on Earth during the late Permian and early Triassic. Sadly, there are no Gorgonopsids, early dinosaurs, or other cool prehistoric creatures on Bandomeer. Obi-Wan Kenobi is taken to help with the agricultural efforts on Bandomeer. I quote from the book on page 30. In the middle of brown, parched earth, the AgriCorp had constructed a giant dome. Surrounding the dome were scientific laboratories and worker housing. Entrances from the labs and the administration centers led into the dome itself. Everyone worked for the good of the planet. No outside interests were allowed to control the research. I seriously doubt that. And no profits were taken from any discoveries. Well, I doubt that too. But this is very similar, very reminiscent of the ecological restoration zones on Telos 4,000 years ago, depicted in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. The restoration zones headed and managed by the Ithorians, which seem to be working okay in that game. I don't know if they're going to be able to bring this planet back to life. But, and Obi-Wan Kenobi meets C. Trimba again. Now, Qui-Gon Jinn, having received a note from his former apprentice Xanatos, goes to attends the meeting between the AgriCorp, the home planet mine, and Off-World Corporation. Now, Xanatos deserted the Jedi Order after, from his point of view, he was betrayed by Qui-Gon Jinn, when his father was killed in a civil war that raged on his home planet, Telos. Again, this is taking place around 4,000 years after you see Telos in KOTOR to the Sith Lords. And now this civil war between Qui-Gon and the inhabitants of Telos would have taken place about 7 years ago, 7 years before this book, and the story involving the mission that ended in Xanatos' defection from the Jedi is told in the comic Star Wars Jedi: The Dark Side. Now, a little earlier on, before they parted ways, Qui-Gon Jinn rouses Obi-Wan from his sleep to attend this meeting that he's going to. Obi-Wan can sense something is wrong. He wants to ask Qui-Gon about it, but it's written in the book that one of the Jedi Order's most serious rules was to not cross-examine a master. I quote, "Truth can hold great power. Therefore the decision to share it must be weighed. Only the master could decide on revelation or concealment, according to the greater good." In other words, shut up and just accept what you're told you can and cannot do. Yeah, this is one of the so many ways in which the Jedi Order failed so many, and it's the same mistake that so many authority figures still make in the modern real world. If nothing is ever questioned, then nothing ever changes, or adapts to changing times, or to new information, and sometimes people, including children, have good reason to challenge what they're told. At the meeting, Sontag and Virta represent the home planet party, and I'm assuming political party with stated goals of replanting the once fertile fields of Bandomeer, as well as gaining control of its natural resources. Well, eventually it'll become only the latter, but let me tell you, as an ecologist, you can't replant fields or forests without first rebuilding the soil layers they will need to grow in. The planet is described in the book as having been stripped for mining. Azurite mines, think of Lego rock raiders with blue crystals. Xanatos arrives as the representative of Offworld Corporation to meet Qui-Gon, and it seems, even so far as Qui-Gon can sense through the Force, that he's genuinely helpful and sincere and respectful all around. There's an accident that goes on with the mine, and Xanatos offers them resources to rebuild. He seems like a genuinely changed person, and so this I find much more interesting than him merely coming in as a declared antagonist. And when he speaks with Kenobi a little later on, a reader who hasn't already watched The Phantom Menace might start to very understandably suspect that Qui-Gon was, in fact, the unfair one to him. So, how Xanatos goes about what he's trying to do in this book is really clever. It's very well thought out, and it keeps the reader suspended and suspicious throughout the whole thing. When I first read these books as a young teenager, and I read through Xanatos' story arc, I really like him as a Dark Jedi. He's probably one of the best Dark Jedi characters ever, especially considering how little he actually appears in the Star Wars mythos. So again, this is a much better book. Reading it over than it first appears. It is lacking a little bit of the depth and development that the first book had, but for what it is, it's much better than I remembered once you go back a little.